Hey to all who have wandered here. Today, I really briefly want to talk about some evidence-based practices that you can very easily use and apply in your classrooms for students with emotional behavioral disorders, especially when you're wanting to teach skills such as self-monitoring and problem solving. I have a few different things I want to introduce, but I mainly want to talk about one model, and it comes from this article, which I'll cite below. This is called Facilitating High Quality Relationships for Students with Emotional and Behavioral Disorders in Crisis. The model is called TAN, so it stands for 3 questions that you can ask yourself as a teacher to ensure, are my interactions with this student beneficial, and are they progressing this child forward? So the 3 questions are these interactions helping me move toward a close relationship with the student? Are these interactions pushing me away from a close relationship with the student? And are the needs of myself and my students being met? The reason I like this model so much is it keeps teachers accountable. And one thing that J. Stewart Ablon, I'm not really sure how to say his name, mentioned in his TED Talk, which I will also link below, is kids do well if they can, not if they want to. So that's a huge misconception, is that students can be lazy, and as teachers we really need to push past that and see that we can be doing better and we can help our students progress forward with self-monitoring and problem solving specifically. So this model, I think, can encapsulate so many different evidence-based practices and guidelines that will keep us accountable as teachers. So more specific questions that we can ask ourselves as teachers is, what can I do to myself in my classroom that will help progress these students forward? What can I work with or work on with the students that will progress them forward? And what can I do to adjust the environment? So I'm going to talk a little bit more about each of these. And the first article I want to bring up for the first question, which is what can I do to myself, is enhancing teacher-student relationships, which I'll cite below as well. And in this one, what I really want to talk about is the social power model. Essentially, as teachers, we can choose one of 4 different social powers that we can apply in our classrooms so that we progress these students forward. And those are coercion, manipulation, expertness, and likability. And coercion and manipulation sound very negative, but if you look into this article, you'll see that it's talking a lot about, I'm blanking right now, but like point systems and supportive language, things like that. So this is definitely a good resource for what can you do to yourself as a teacher. Then for the next question, what can I work on with my students? Another article is this Take Charge article. I'll link this one as well. And I liked this article because it talked about cognitive behavior interventions. And I didn't know really what that meant for a long time, but essentially what it's saying is, or what's good about these interventions is that it helps students identify problems and then solve those problems. So when you're using a cognitive behavioral intervention with a student, that's what's so successful with it, is that it helps them do those 2 things. So that's something you can do with your students. And then for the last thing, what can I do to adjust the environment? I want to go back to that TED Talk and the same article that I just mentioned, this Take Charge one. The TED Talk talked a lot about how these students often provide lots of, like problems, predictable problems throughout the day. And those can just be used as learning opportunities. So a way that we can adjust the environment is, instead of seeing those problems as problems, we can use them as learning opportunities for our students. But what I liked about this article is that they brought up a really good fact that students with EBD are so often put in self-contained rooms that we need to be thinking about whatever we teach them in a self-contained room needs to be applied to more inclusive environments. So we just need to consider that for our students in self-contained rooms, because we ultimately want them to be able to problem solve as adults. And if we give them skills to problem solve just as students in a self-contained room, it's not going to benefit them in the long run. So those are the main things I wanted to talk about today. And my main points with him is just that this TAN model is really going to help keep you accountable. But then for even more accountability, if you can become more like if you are willing to put in a little bit more work, you can think about these other 3 questions that I brought up. So thanks for listening. I hope it helped.